Hello, this is Oatmeal here. I have been playing the shit out of the Mongols lately. I want to thank Vortex to start off. He's the one who kind of inspired this strategy, but this is one you can do with the Delhi and the Rus I've seen as well, but the Mongols, it's pretty crazy. Usually I start off with 5 or 6 Mongolai and harass villagers and focus on economy. But that was definitely not the case today. So I'm going to reveal the whole map. I immediately park my town hall right next to the wood, as you want to do, so you can get all this surface area banking with the town hall. And I start my villagers on sheep as my Khan does what he does best, and that's run around the map very quickly with his maneuver arrow and picking up some sheep. So this strategy is going to be all about getting scouts up. Scouts are a pretty affordable unit in general, 60 food to produce, but when they're next to an uwu, they can double produce, so you can do some pretty crazy things. Now, the reason I wanted to test this on hard AI is they act very similar to how somebody online would. If you were Delhi, what would you start out with? Well, a house, because you're going to reach 10 population, and a mosque, because you want to start your research immediately because it's free. And, well, the berry bushes might have been a little bit frivolous. People probably would have started on more sheep earlier on, but the point is they act a lot like real players would. So you can expect the circumstances, maybe not the reaction, to be the same. But the Khan dropped off the sheep, so we've got a good supply of sheep in the meantime. We're not stressing too much about that. We're collecting stone early on. Now, if I had scouted this early on, I would have used this one, because you do use a lot of stone with this strategy. Just something to think about. Like I said, you can do this with the Rus and the Delhi, so you don't need stone at that point. You'll just be producing a sheer amount of stables to keep up with the scout production, but the concept is the same. Also, while we're in the early game, I want to talk about this map. This is the French Pass. It's got a lot of restricted choke points. If I had a better teammate that wasn't an AI, we could have walled off here, and I could have prepared without being scouted with what I'm doing. So this could be more ideal and less ideal. If we were on Arabia, I might not even do this strategy. I might do the normal siege engineering through the blacksmith and make battering rams and just rush with spearmen, archers, and battery rams. You know, that's definitely a viable strategy. A lot of people use it, and it's better when you can just roll right to your opponent's base. It's a very quick travel, and yeah. I still don't do that strategy. I like the Mongolai. At that point, I go late game, because Mongol late game is super, super scary. Not because they're very strong. I mean, their siege can get strong if they have the blacksmith, you know, boosted by this guy over here. But it's really just the fact that they can multiply, and you can't really kill me. It's like I could pack up this entire building, hide it right here next to these trees, and as long as you don't kill that landmark, I'm still alive. I have some comeback mechanic. So yeah, and I also like to set up trade with the Mongols. If this were an actual game, I would have set my silver tree back here and been trading across the map for a solid 250 gold, but that's not what we're doing. So, dropped off a whole nother load of sheep, started getting really comfy with the stable economy, getting those pastures up. That's really, really important. You don't want to run out of food. So you can see I'm already producing 260 per minute. Very, very quickly. But then again, everybody else is too, so I want to make sure I can keep wood up, though, to make sure those pastures don't run out, and that I can get stables and a blacksmith whenever that's required. But you can see the gold's pretty much done. I put 2 villagers on it for a little bit, then I pulled 1 villager back to wood because it was no longer needed. 200 gold's all we need for age 2, and age 2 is where you're going to do the majority of your work here. Now, huge shout out to, I believe it's Vortex. He did this in age 1. Wasn't very effective. I mean, it was a really cool concept, and he got very, very close in his video, but it wasn't effective. And huge shout out to Drogo. I believe he's an Australian caster. He was narrating a game where somebody had gone all the way to age 4 and did the scouts, you know, just kind of as a last-ditch effort. He was half the score of his opponents and managed to win the game because he had 110 scouts in his enemy's throat before they could react. and they didn't repair enough landmarks. The scouts just overwhelmed and won the game with sniping. So there definitely is a late game strategy here, and it's sheer numbers. If you can get it up there, if you can maintain those numbers, if you can maintain those supply lines. So if you were going age 4 and your opponent had turtled pretty hard, you would probably want to set up a forward operating base somewhere around here, so that way as soon as they died you could have them right there, ready to go, and ready to torch down your opponent. Now Mongols are kind of made for this strategy, not just for the double production, but the Yam, Speed, Aura. These don't only speed up your villagers, but if you put watchtowers all along this area, it'll continue to refresh extra speed. Yeah, really helps them get downfield quick. Now, a bit of a blunder here. I kind of got it too close to the TC, but managed to get him out alive with the maneuver arrow. And you can see how big of a movement increase that is. You'll never need the attack increase, because that's never really what matters with the scouts, but the maneuver arrow gets them all around that building really quickly. So yeah, that's something you're going to see flying multiple times. It's pretty much all you use in this strategy, and it's very effective. Now, checking out my teammate, building up well, exactly as you'd expect. The Aachen Chapel in a horrible place, exactly as you'd expect. If you were actually playing the HRE, you'd want it somewhere around here to get all these resources sped up exponentially. And it's not even loaded with a prelate, so shame on you. The Chinese, this is definitely the enemy of the Mongols. I would say that this is the direct counter to Mongols. Not only is their artillery very strong with the clock tower, but they also produce, so they have landmarks with their ages, but they also have dynasties. So essentially how we have 2 options for age 2 landmarks, they can use both of those. So they can get up to the point where they have, I believe, 7 or 8 landmarks that you have to take out, which if you're doing a scout rush, you're pretty squishy. So making sure that they don't get too many landmarks up, or making sure that you have really good supply lines to keep those numbers refreshed while you're landmark sniping is going to be important in late game, or not even applicable. You probably can't even do it. So I am starting to double produce my scouts now. You can see the production coming out like crazy. This is already going to be 12 scouts. So when you think about the sheer numbers that come next, yeah, it gets pretty crazy. Start switching villagers over to wood. You can see we got 8 on them now, and that's to make sure that the pasture economy stays good and that I can get these stables going up. And that's why I kept them over here. Now, 2 on gold. Don't need a whole lot on gold, because you'll see throughout the game, where if it takes me 7 to 8 minutes to accumulate a good horde of scouts, 7 to 8 minutes would put me at around 800 gold, which would help me to the second age. So over time, you're just going to be harvesting that gold, and it's really not going to be an issue because you're not using it for anything here, or your villager production. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but I would have it as an afterthought. And it's also something for the enemy to attack, so it almost acts as an alarm system, and a not very costly one either. 100 food, you can sacrifice that to get a good 15-second head start to get your villagers garrisoned into your town hall to keep them safe. Now you can see the scouts are already accumulating pretty heavily. I gotta tell you, you don't want to be too itchy with scouts. If you're looking for the magic number, in the feudal age I would say it's around 50. In the castle age it's around 80. And in the imperial age it's going to be somewhere around 120 to 150 is what it's going to be required to take out these landmarks. Just based on how many troops they're going to have at the moment to counter you, that's really what matters, is how quickly are they going to kill you versus you killing them, because they're going to die, you're going to die, but you got to outpace it. So keeping the villager production alive. My opponents are doing very well in their economy. You can see everything's gotten far more efficient, and Delhi is making the smart move here, going for the berry bushes. They do have the enhanced berry bushes, you can see, that are at 500, which is pretty cool. Chinese are doing what the Chinese do best, and that's building a lot of stuff. They're really expanding outwards, and that's why they're scary too, is I've seen a lot of players that really use that to their advantage. When they make it second town hall, or second town center, they'll do it really off in the distance, and they'll build in between them, so they make an empire that makes it incredibly hard to get to any of the landmarks whenever they come up. So something to be wary of. We've accumulated up to 31 scouts during all this time, and we're only 9 minutes into the game. So you can see how effective this is at really putting on some early game pressure. Now, if this were online as well, I would have started harassing by now. I would have already taken out this building, maybe tried to take up this, couple houses here, whatever I can to slow my opponent down and, you know, get their villagers doing something they shouldn't be doing. If you can push them off of stone, for example, this would be a very lucrative thing to do. That's 200 food you can take out, and that's 50 food and 50 gold profit you get from burning down buildings, because Mongols actually get paid to burn down buildings. Speaking of, I actually got the upgrade here for raid bounty, so that I can increase that. It's just nuts. So if you can actually manage to take out an enemy, you get paid to do it. So if you successfully snipe their landmarks, we've got, what, 15 buildings here? So that's 750 gold. I mean, the food's great, but you've got a great food economy already. You get that per minute. But the gold is really what matters, because gold is always so vulnerable. So I want to keep up with that. So you can see I start doing what's called animation canceling. I don't know how Relic actually feels about animation canceling. I do feel like it takes strategy. There's so many things to manage in the game, and to micro something like this. I've seen a lot of people in Imperial Age, because they're keeping up with the scout production, they can't watch it. So it's one of those things where it's like, you can't even animation cancel all the time. So I'm hoping they keep it in the game, because it does take some skill to use, but that's to be seen. We're sitting at around 40 scouts now, even with the extra ones coming in, and you can see that their troops are going to town. They're really, really working hard on me. I did get paid there for burning down the building, but you can see how many have fallen to get that payday. The next landmark is here. I see that I just don't have enough firepower, and that's why I say the magic number is somewhere around 50. Because I had around 40 when I rushed in, and then got up to 50 with reinforcements. If I had started with 50, I think the tide would have turned exponentially, because they do have a good 15-20 troops here ready to go. So that's definitely something to watch out for. But I recoup what scoops. Your scoops now. I recoup what scouts I have. If you didn't know, scouts heal on their own, so over time they're going to be working back up to full health while I accumulate more heading on in. And I've also increased back home my stable production. Do you need this many? No, but I was really, really, really hoping to push back green in the early game because of exactly this right here. I decided, after seeing how little that did to any of their troops, that it just wasn't worth it, and made sure to back off and get a new garrison point together so that I can continue on. And there's not much more else for upgrades. Eventually you do want to pop up a blacksmith and get the defense upgrades so that your scouts aren't so squishy, especially against mob troops, so that'd be good, but you can see how in a fight this just isn't ideal. You really want to be able to just run in, get your opponent, and be done. And the con should help you with that with the maneuver arrow. That was something I also didn't use in the first go about it, because I think I used the maneuver arrow to get around here. Stone walls. They're going to be your enemy with this. Now, say you get to Imperial Age, right? How do you counter stone walls if you want to continue with the scouts? Well, pop up a couple of either trebuchets. I really recommend you just go with the cannons, the bombards, and it'll make short work of those walls. You'll be able to run in. Something really important, say you have a wall like this, kill this corner piece and kill this piece right here. The one in the middle I don't think matters because it gets destroyed when this one does. But this one really does, because then you'll have a nice point for all of your scouts to run in. The last thing you want to do with a squishy unit is choke it up in some small point so it can't enter in where it needs to go. So we're still getting the scouts together. We're sitting at around 50 again, 40 again, and yeah, it's speeding up pretty quick. I really, really do like trading with Mongols. That's something I want to mention on the side. In a multiplayer game, I don't know that I would have made the same choices, because even without the AM speed for my villagers, it's like, that's cool, it really is, look how quick they are. but I could just use watchtowers like here and here, and that would be 140 wood, and I would basically get the same EM speed that I'm using to justify it for these scouts to get them to their location quicker. And I would also have much better trading. This trade route right here is worth probably about 180 gold and 18 food and 18 wood. So if you had issues with getting raided throughout the game or really harassed, it would be a good idea to have that in the back of the map that nobody knows about so that you can kind of recover. Now, the enemy went for a goofy sacred site because that's what they do. There's a decent bit of troop over here, and it does look like they were prepared. We got yellow and green taking on red solo, but they left this one completely unmanned, so I did what you would do, and that's take it back so they don't get gold. Especially the deli, they get gold at a much bigger rate. Now you can see they actually have a good force coming together. It's like 30 troops with these guys. Looks like they're going on a relic hunt. Maybe? Nope. Okay, well, there goes a sacred site victory that they were going for there. And I believe this is about the time that I decide, yep, this is enough. So we go in with, it looks like 75 scouts. It's a very good number. They've got another 6 troops coming in. I would assume to my base is where they're headed next. But you don't want to worry about that too much. You want to try to make sure as many villagers as possible don't die. But really you need to be focused on taking out your opponent, especially if you're on a 1v1 and they're the one attacking you, because you take them out, well, it stops the bleeding, right? And that's kind of what happens. When you see these guys pushing in, start attacking your base, you can't stop. You gotta keep doing what you're doing. And that's exactly what I did. When I saw stone walls, I navigated to the south, make sure you don't cut into points where they can see you. You can trigger some alarms, especially if they have troops very close. I don't think this would have gone as well if I would have done that differently. But yeah, you're going to come up to these landmarks, do the animation cancel stuff, and they're going to be gone. Now, they've got a good 20 troops in their base, but it's just not enough. And I think that's really indicative of how a lot of people play. If you're pushing for control on the map, you want your troops near the sacred sites, you want them near the gold. You wouldn't want a ton at your base. Maybe some watchtowers and stuff, but that's just not going to be enough for this. You can see how quickly 70 scouts just melt the town hall. And there it is. And our economy is also doing fairly well. Now, not for long, did get raided super heavily, but the landmark is down, this enemy is done. One thing I hope Relic addresses is this. I don't think it should be a thing, to be honest with you. Maybe it balances out the fact that you can trade with your dead competitors, but yeah, their dead troops still attack what they were attacking, and they also do this in my base. You can see them torching this up here. It's kind of funny, but they really hog up room in my sheep pen if they actually get in there. That was actually a huge problem. But yeah, all my villagers are dead. I have 11 in their garrison, and that's all I could get. They absolutely did work. Not much you can do there. Yeah, I guess he's just keeping a lookout here. And really what you want to do is leave a couple scouts behind. If it's all calm, if it's all peachy, each one of these is worth, well, now that I have the upgrade, 75 gold and 75 food. So you can see how lucrative this gets almost immediately. Like if I had all those resources, well, having only 13 villagers wouldn't be as bad as it is now. I don't know why I kept them garrisoned so long. I was probably just worried about accumulating more defenses in that time. But then I start sending the scouts to make some money. It just works. I mean, look at that. You just sit back, relax, let your Mongols do their thing. And the houses are a very quick kill, you can see here too. You don't even need to animation cancel and they're crazy quick. But You will have to shift click. I mean, you guys don't know how to do that. You basically just shift, right click, right click, right click, right click, right click, so it just goes on a line of action. Now these are scary, especially when you start talking about the French arbiters and musketeers and stuff like that. They can melt your horses very quickly. Look at that. Dead. And they've got range, so you can outrun them, but not nearly as effectively. So I wanted to make sure that I got tucked away in a position that was amenable to yellow, because they were not happy I was there. These two are still just degenerates, vandalizing. Deal with them later. I did end up pulling out all the villagers to start working on food again, as I needed much more scouts. But right now I'm sitting at 90 in military, so it's not like we're struggling by any means. I mean, these are all healing up to full health, and just here we have looks to be about 81 scouts. Don't know why they're split off like that. It's a little weird. Maybe some are made from the uwu and some are. I don't know. Now the Khan is getting a little beefier too. If I do end up aging up, he does get bonuses. But really, I think once you've got a point of advantage like this, you're finishing the game early. You know, like 2 against 1. Even if this AI was garbage, it's like it's at least enough help that I should be able to do most anything at this point. But you can see yellow really does get an army together. I mean, this is 39 heavy troops. They're not very upgraded. Yeah, make that 48. But just in sheer numbers, they can be very deadly. And you can see their infrastructure is a lot better than our own. Their farming economy is excellent. Well, I guess that was actually Delhi, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Yeah, not so good on the farming economy here, but they are really expanding outwards. Funnily enough, there's that town hall, or town center like I was talking about. The Chinese really have a way of spreading out their base and making it really hard to navigate. If I were red, I would have found myself in a much more precarious situation here, trying to get around all of this without being detected, to then sneak in and start sniping landmarks. But, yeah. I think this is about the time where I realized that's about enough. Or at least very close to it. But I kept producing scouts, even double producing until the stone ran out. And that's why I said if I could have scouted this earlier and used this one instead, I honestly would have. It's a pain to send the villager, but you only need to build those, you know, a couple times, and then it's not that big of a deal. But you can see how one got torched, and it's still... It's not a stretch to fill up my army again, so that's something. I did end up sending some villagers just to shank these guys, because I was tired of seeing the alert. Yeah. Whenever you do age up, this is going to be something you want to get, and also a market wouldn't have been a bad idea for the strategy. That was something I didn't get. I could have traded some gold for some food and kept a more consistent scout production going up. There was definitely times where I was bottlenecked in that whole thing. Yeah, sitting on, looks to be 110, 111? Yeah, 111, with 5 more on the way. So that's more than enough. I mean, even for age 4, but with China, you got to worry about having much more landmarks. This particular one, he's only age 3, but he's got 4 landmarks. So I got to be able to get in and get out. Luckily for me, his army was a little bit far away when I started rushing in, so I had a good amount of time to get started on the first landmark before he'd even shown up. But, yeah, keeping the scouts on the way, and this is something else I want to talk about. I was talking about that shift-click thing. If you click the stable, right-click here to spawn them here, and then you shift, and then right-click them here, it'll make them run there, then there. That way you can create a really good line of troops coming in, especially if you have far more stables than I have now. If you're going into the late game, you'd want 12 to 15 stables producing to keep up with the scouts to burn down these things. You can see with the animation cancel how much damage they really do. We have China's army coming in here. A little bit too little too late, and they have quite a big military, but the only thing really harming me is going to be that nest of bees there. You can see how much damage that does to me. If I were to let those shots continue on, it definitely would have crippled my army to a point to where I couldn't win the game. So I start torching those down. Second I find the other one, I send some scouts to swiftly deal with that. This isn't reactive enough. If it was, it still wouldn't have been enough. Because I wasn't even animation canceling for this one over here, but you can see how quick it's still burning down just based on sheer numbers. When you have 50 of these all burning this down at the same time, it's just such a quick process. And I'm even aging up to 3. You can see the economy's recovered. I'm burning down stuff. I'm getting profit, and that's how the Mongols play, baby. Yeah. So this is the scouts that I've optimized a little bit. I hope you got something out of it. Hope you enjoyed it. And I really like playing the Mongols because of their versatility like this. And if you want to see more Age of Empires gameplay, yeah, I definitely want to make some more. Yeah, I'll see you.